Hi, I'm your host Abdul Bharti and welcome to our series on tech predictions for 2021. Our next oracle is Pierre Burgy, co-founder and CEO of Strapi. Pierre, first of all, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
Before I ask you to pick up your crystal ball and share your prediction, can you please tell me a bit about the company itself?
Yeah, sure. So at Strapi, we help developers and content editors to manage content and make it available to any platform. So we are building an open source headless CMS. So headless means API first, which means the content is available to any platform. So that's what we do at Strapi.
That's great. Now, it's time for you to pick up your crystal ball and tell me what predictions you have for this year.
Yeah, so my first prediction is that the Jamstack is gonna be much more simple this year. So Jamstack stands for, the Jam in Jamstack stands for JavaScript, APIs, and markup. So it's a way to build a website. It's a new architecture. So you use JavaScript to build the interface. You use APIs to interact with other services, and you use the markup to get content. Most of the time is in Markdown format, and you display it inside your website. So when we talk about the Jamstack in general, it really means static websites. And when you use Jamstack, you typically use a headless CMS, you typically use an e-commerce solution. And for the moment, the Jamstack is really for very advanced use cases, very custom use cases. So only companies with developers can use these kind of things. But what I think is that all of the different pieces in this ecosystem, so the front end, the CMS, the payment system, the e-commerce systems are all going to be connected. And I think we will see more and more integrations, and we will see a very well-connected ecosystem. And what will happen is that people will use the Jamstack and they won't even be aware of it, because they will just click on some button, and it will be more and more on a low-code approach, which means it will be much more easy for anyone to use all of these technologies. So my second prediction is that we will see more and more hybrid front ends. So in the Jamstack at the moment, we see lots of static website generators. So they are extremely helpful. They have lots of advantages. So first of all, they are really easy to use. So you're gonna develop your website locally on your computer, and then you deploy your website. So there is a build phase, and this build phase is gonna generate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files that's gonna be hosted on a server. And then you will eventually put a CDN on top of your server or your AWS S3 bucket, for example. And there are also lots of services to host all of these static websites. So they are really nice because it offers really good performances. It's really cheap. It's really easy. But the reality is that it also displays all of these same pages for everyone visiting your website. But if you want to add a little bit of context in your website, so for example, you want to change the menu or a specific part of the website depending on your users, if, for example, the user is authenticated, that's something you cannot easily do with the Jamstack, it's not designed for this. So the opposite of static websites are dynamic websites, which means every time the user is going to visit a web page, the server is going to compute a page specifically for this user. So it means that it's going to request the database. It will eventually request APIs as well. So it's quite easy in terms of computing, but it gives lots of flexibility, a lot of possibilities to the developers to build any kind of web experience. What I think is that we will see something which is much more hybrid, so really between dynamic and static. And that way we will have the benefits of both worlds. So all of this performance, cheap and so on, but also the possibility to build something that is very dynamic and adapted for each of your users.
That's great. Now, can you tell me what is going to be the focus of Strapi in 2021?
So the focus of Strapi is going to be on the product, it's going to be on the community, and it's going to be on the ecosystem. So first, it's going to be on the product because we have lots of features requested by the community that we have to release for all of them. They are highly requested, and they are going to be a game changer for Strapi. It's also about community, because open source and community are extremely important for Strapi. We owe everything to the community, so we're going to make contributions much more easier for our users. We're also going to be much more transparent in the way we develop the product to make things more in the open. So, what we do internally as a team, we really want it to be public for the community, so they have really good visibility. And the third one is the ecosystem, because what made the success of all of the most used traditional CMSs is not the CMS itself, but really the ecosystem of plugins around it. And we really think that it's going to be the same story in the headless CMS landscape. And it's really related to what I said at the beginning about all of this Jamstack that is going to be really connected. And that's really what we want to build with Strapi. So that way you can add some content in the CMS and then synchronize in Algolia. For example, you can, from the CMS, select projects that are stored in Shopify. And that way you can build something that is not only a CMS, but really something that is at the heart of all of your services.
Pierre, thank you so much for sharing these predictions with us. I would actually love to have you back on the show at the end of this year to see how many of your predictions turn out to be true and just to get your predictions for the next year. So once again, thank you.
Thanks to you.